Like to come forward, and Mr. Bradley, would you like to give a brief introduction?
Sure. I'd like to take pride tonight to introduce you to one of Monroe's newest clergy members, Mr. Bruce Baggett. Bruce is now the associate pastor at First Baptist Church here in Monroe, and it's my church, and I'm just so glad to have Bruce with us. Bruce born, raised, lived most of his life in Oxford, Mississippi, went to school at Ole Miss, and I think he's been an Ole Miss football fan for most of his life, but we think when fall of the year comes around, we might have him barking like a dog. We get him over here.
Didn't work
We're
for me.
We're really glad to have you here tonight, Bruce, if you'd have our invocation for us.
Please pray with me. Our Father and our God, we thank you so much for this day, for the many blessings that you've given us, Lord. Father, we just ask your hand of blessing on this proceeding today, Lord, that you'd give these men and women wisdom, that you give them boldness, that you would guide them, Lord, as they try to be good stewards with all the things that you've blessed us with in this city. Father, we love you, we thank you and praise your name. In Christ's name we pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your coming out. And you'll be around on Easter Sunday, correct?
He didn't hear you.
You'll be around on Easter Sunday, correct? What time are your services?
I don't think he could hear you.
Might as well give a plug for the church.
3 services, 8:30, 10:55, 11:11. So
Great. Thank you. We're glad you're here. Appreciate your coming tonight. Call this meeting to order and let everybody know that Tyler Gregory just walked in, so we do have full attendance by our council. Also, there are a couple of things I want to mention. First, we do not comment on any ongoing legal issues or unsolved cases. We're not going to adjudicate anything in council chambers. Secondly, when we have members of staff who may need to be reprimanded, or we're not going to do that by name. That's just not something that's acceptable. We'll move to the approval of the agenda, and before we do that, I need to amend the agenda tonight to add 2 items that Beth mailed to each of you this afternoon regarding the American Rescue Plan, fund budget adoptions for the fiscal year 2021 and fiscal year 2022. Add section V, number 2, new business items will be, I will be the resolution of the 2021 ARPA Act Fund budget, and J will be the resolution of the 2022 ARPA Act Fund budget. And I need a motion for approval of the agenda as amended, please.
Move to approve.
I have a motion by Mr. Gregory. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Malcolm. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to the approval of the consent agenda. It's the council minutes from last month, executive session minutes, planning commission meeting minutes, historic preservation, downtown development, and convention and visitors bureau minutes. And I need a motion for the approval of the consent agenda, please.
Move to approve.
Have a motion by Mr. Little. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a second by Ms. Crawford. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to public forum, I have 2 people who've signed up for comment tonight. I have Mr. Ron Norris about the apartments on Breedlove, and I have Mr. Parker. I think, Josh, unless you had another item that you want to discuss, you're actually listed as the appeal. Mr. Norris?
You might want to make him aware that he can.
Yeah, Ron, do you want to speak now or save it for for the public hearing portion on the apartments? We'll get down to that under new business. You can do either.
Okay, that's good. I'm sorry. I knew Josh was coming in. I didn't know that. I thought you might have had something else to talk about. Okay, we'll be back with you in a few minutes. I do have Dessa Morris here tonight. She is to give a presentation, and if you'd like to come forward, please, Dessa.
Well, thank you. I haven't never had so many people show up for the workforce development report. So,
But any of y'all have kids, Dessa's about to put them all to work.
okay, let's see. Okay. It is my privilege to be here. The mayor asked me to come share some good news with you and some exciting things that are happening in the workforce world. So I want to just start with a point of reference. Back in December, we hosted what will now be an annual event because of, for lots of reasons, but we had all these industries come together and talk about workforce, which seemed pretty awesome till you realize we have 35 industries in Walton County, and 1 out of every 10 jobs in Walton County is a manufacturing job. So I just want to tell you a few things that we're doing to engage our K through 12, our technical college, and the 35 industries that call Walton County home. The program I am most excited about is a dual enrollment program through Athens Tech. We have students from all 4 high schools, Walton County School District and Social Circle City Schools, coming, and they will come to Athens Tech in the fall as part of their high school career and earn their basic machinist certification. This puts them well ahead of their peers. They will have the opportunity to go on and earn another certification as they complete high school during spring semester. But I have several companies vying for them to come on and go to work. Let's do some work-based learning in the afternoon your spring semester because this position is in demand and we have an excellent program. So y'all know I try to be fun. I'm not super fun, but we're trying to talk about Taco Tuesday to get kids interested. We've already, the flyer on the left is more Dessa's style. It talks about exactly what we need, and then the flyer on the right is me trying to be fun and get some high school attention because you want to have fun and learn with your friends. We've already met our goal as far as the number of students we'll have in the fall, and I'm looking for big things because then we will scale this up going forward. Sometimes our parents are not as well informed as our high school students are. So we have done some work with Empowering Parents webinar to help them understand that, a 4-year college or university is not the only way to be successful. Come go to work, figure out what you want to do, make $65,000 a year, and then let somebody else pay for you to go to college once you figure out what you want to do. So it's a great time to do that. Wanted to mention another program that is in its infancy here, and we're actually doing it down in Social Circle. It is, if you're interested in construction, this company will actually pay you to learn for 8 weeks, and then they will guarantee you a job placement either with Holder Construction or with one of their subcontractors. Y'all, this is the real deal. We'll be interviewing, we've already started talking to high school students about this. You have to have graduated from high school, so it is available to any adults. It's a fantastic program in combination with Holder Construction and Meta, which is formerly known as Facebook. One of the very most impactful events we did was the end of March. It was a Student Success Alliance event in partnership with the Walton Chamber of Commerce and Walton Works. We had about 700 high school juniors and seniors come through, talk to adults in Walton County about careers, which is fantastic. But the best part of the event, in my opinion, was they had an opportunity to tour 15 locations. You have to see it to be it, and if you just ride by one of these large employers that's the size of several different football fields, sometimes you don't know what's going on inside. So we had students tour these companies and really appreciate their time in showing our students what great local careers look like. So that later this month, we have 16 companies that will be coming into each of our high schools to interview our graduating seniors. We've been working with them all year through the Student Success Alliance to get them ready. And these are the numbers to beat, and I know we're going to do it. In 2021, we had more than 65 offers and 32 students hired. I'm going to say it here, we're going to at least double that this year. We have more employers on board, and our students are better prepared. This summer, we have a unique opportunity to host 100 externs. Those are educators and other people inside the school that maybe might let you turn in your assignment a little bit late because they want to be nice. They might let you be tardy coming into their class. We want to help them understand that those sorts of being nice will get you fired in your career. So we will take 100 externs. We'll spend a week with them. They'll spend 3 days inside our industries to help build some mutual understanding about what needs to happen there. The most externs we've ever done in any time before was last summer, and we did 15. So scaling up to 100 is interesting and keeping me up at night, but we'll be hosting that. We'll use Monroe Area High School as our central location. Just today, and you guys might see someone you recognize, but just today, we hosted our regional job fair, had about 360 folks attend. We gave away 54 blazers. The Walton County crew, highlighted by our very own Les Russell. We worked with a clothing closet with blazers from Goodwill, Fish, and just donations, and suited people up with a blazer, gave them a pep talk, and sent them in to talk to the 30 employers that were there. These are some of the employers that were there from Walton County. It was a fantastic day. Wanted to update you. We are in process of opening our very own career center where you can send people to work on their resume, maybe have some skills updates, apply for jobs, and we already have these folks that are wanting to come in, and up there is my Walton Works Foundation letter. I will be asking for money. I've already been turned down for one grant because we will be adding computers, a big screen, a touch screen to be able to teach from, and then tables for them to be on. So I want you to remember we have a place to get people hired, but right now the best option for people looking for a job is our website. You'll notice Aida Roberts from our office has designed this to make it look fabulous. We have hundreds of available industrial jobs at walton.works/jobs. So I hope you will direct your friends, neighbors, nephews that you want to get off the couch to that website, or even better, give them, this is my cell phone number. I know most people like to text, email. I would love to help anyone who's interested in a great local career secure one of those right here in Walton County.
Thank you, Dessa. Are there any questions for Ms. Morris?
All right, I'd already,
I'll-
talked to several of you to please not ask me any hard questions, but it would be okay.
I will brag about Dessa. She is the number one, we'll call her the employer of choice. She gets people into jobs, and those jobs translate into money that stays in Monroe and Walton County. Those jobs support homes, those jobs support families, and we couldn't be more proud of the job that you're doing.
It's the best job around. I appreciate you letting me share.
And there's
share a
one
few
more thing.
updates.
Ida's name is not Roberts anymore. Ida, what's your last name?
Oilman.
Wellman.
Practice with me today.
Did you intend to get married this weekend and not tell anybody, or did you just decide on the spur of the moment? Congratulations. We're excited for you. Thank you, Dessa.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Next, Workforce Development Prevention. That was Workforce Development, Child Abuse Prevention Month. How's that? Sorry, Lauren was running late. I was worried she wasn't going to show at all. Apparently Tyler didn't have his tie on.
Well, I took Tyler's keys, and then I had to go back and give him his keys, so. First day, full-time working daycare for the graduates.
She's covering for you.
Watch your face.
So may I, or would you like to start?
Whatever you like. You can start, and then I can.
All right. Okay, this is a proclamation of the City of Monroe, Georgia. Whereas according to the Child Maltreatment Report prepared by the Children's Bureau of the United States Department of Health and Human Services, there were 618,000 confirmed cases of child abuse and/or neglect in America in 2020. And whereas the Georgia Family Connection Partnership reports that there were 173 substantiated cases of child abuse and/or neglect in Walton County, Georgia in 2019. And whereas in 2021, a Child's Voice Child Advocacy Center responded to 113 cases of child physical abuse, sexual abuse, and/or a witness to a violent crime in Walton County, Georgia by conducting forensic interviews, forensic medical exams, and family support services. And whereas the Center for Disease Control and Prevention suggests that reported cases of child abuse may underestimate the true occurrence and estimates that 1 in 4 American children experience some form of child maltreatment in their lifetimes. And whereas, according to Darkness to Light, Victims of child abuse are significantly more likely to experience emotional, psychological, health, and behavioral issues. And whereas with a strong support system and effective counseling, children are able to heal from physical and sexual abuse. And whereas children's advocacy centers like A Child's Voice work within the community to spread awareness about child abuse, teach citizens how to recognize the signs and respond to child abuse, and utilize a multidisciplinary approach to coordinating care for families with the help of law enforcement, DFACS, District Attorney's Office, school systems, and mental health counselors. And whereas a Child's Voice Child Advocacy Center invites all residents for the city of Monroe, Georgia, to participate in Child Abuse Prevention Month in April 2022 by sharing their time and talents to help create a better, brighter future for the children and families. Now, therefore, I, John Howard, Mayor of the City of Monroe, do hereby proclaim April 1st through 30th, 2022 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in the City of Monroe, Georgia, and encourage all residents to become aware of the prevalence of child abuse in our community and to learn how to properly recognize, respond to, and prevent instances of child physical or sexual abuse by supporting children and families and the agencies that serve them in the City of Monroe, Georgia. In testimony whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the Great Seal of the City of Monroe, Georgia, this first day of April 2022. John Stuart Howard.
Thank you. I know it's a lot. That's really wordy. But thank you so much for having me here. So we come every year, usually me, sometimes somebody else from my office, to celebrate Child Abuse Prevention Month. I get the pleasure, for those of you who don't know me, I think all you know me, but my name's Lauren Gregory. I work for A Child's Voice Child Advocacy Center, which is a nonprofit and social circle. And what we do is we partner with law enforcement, DFACS, all the people who investigate cases of child abuse, and our job in that is to hear directly from the child about what happened in a really child-friendly, trauma-sensitive way. So the child can tell what happened to an adult who maybe isn't scary, like a law enforcement officer or a DFACS worker, but we work with those agencies as part of the investigation, and what we do is really help the children heal. So we let them talk about what happened, we do forensic medical exams to make sure bodies are healthy, get any evidence that's needed for the investigation, and then we do a lot of support. So how do you move on? Because we know that kids can heal from abuse. We've seen it, evidence supports it, research supports it, so that's really why we exist. John read a lot of, Mr. Mayor, read a lot of statistics and all that, but really what I want to make sure everybody knows is that unfortunately child abuse does happen in our community, but we can prevent it and we can be there for the kids who've experienced it. And that's what my goal is to empower the community in general to be there for the kids and ultimately work ourselves out of jobs is the main goal. Y'all have a packet of information, a little bit more about us, our 2021 stats, some ways to get involved, and a lapel pin, which I was recommended that you all might enjoy a lapel pin by one of the council members. Mr. Gregory said a lapel pin might be nice. He's modeling one for you. But just something that if y'all want to wear that, we would love it. But if you want to know more, our information is there. You can also see our pinwheels outside the little Baptist church park that's across from CVS. The pinwheel is the symbol of safe, healthy, happy childhoods, and that's what we celebrate this April. So if y'all have any questions, I will entertain them, but mostly thank you so much for your time and your support.
Are there any questions for Ms. Gregory? I appreciate your allowing me the opportunity to come plant some of those pinwheels.
Yes, you really did a fantastic job.
It was a beautiful day.
Yes.
Would you like to take this with you? Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you. People like Lauren and her team and Dessa and her team that really make Monroe a great place to be. And Lauren, I appreciate you, and I appreciate the fact that you put up with Tyler 365 days a year, because I get him for 12, and that's enough. Moving to City Administrator update, Mr. Probst.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief. We have a lot ahead of us tonight. Going to hit three things. Traffic calming. I see some familiar faces who are very invested in the traffic calming project we have before us. Contracts are going back to them this week. We negotiated a $90,000 savings in the contract, so it's going to take a little bit longer. From there, it just has to get into the queue of the contractor. And like I said earlier this year, it'll probably be throughout the summer that these installations will go forward. Number two is the bypass. GDOT is now, they've awoken, and they're really pushing us now to work on utility relocations. Rodney and Brian have been working very diligently with the permitting office. But we're gonna have some pretty significant expenses come before you. So we'll be talking a lot more about that in the next, few months, but we've got to get going on that, get some orders in place on some material. A lot of it we're gonna do in-house, some of it will end up contracting. But a lot of that we'll talk about on Thursday, May 5th at 6 p.m. during our called Utility Committee meeting to discuss that project, some other projects that we have going on in the utility world, just talking about the high-cost environment that we're seeing. Going to prioritize and strategize what we need to do within our limited amount of funding, especially in the bond fund, some of which we'll be talking about tonight.
Perfect. Thank you. Are there any questions for Logan? Hearing none, we'll move to Mr. Bailey.
Thank you, sir. Our CDBG 2020 project is still ongoing. All of the easements are complete with the areas that we're fixing to move to and areas that we've completed. The Mobley Circle area was tough because it was a tighter area, but residents and everybody in that street span of what we're doing have been great. There hadn't been one single complaint to the point of people just wanting to talk to us and figure out kind of what we're doing. Once they talk to us and discuss it, they're happy. And that leads to tomorrow, we will have a public hearing at noon here in the council chambers for the 2022 CDBG project, which is in the Bryant Road area for public input. The Plaza Shopping Center, the phase 2 of that, the Blaine Station area is complete. We signed off on that yesterday. So the RFP process is now kind of in the works that we're putting together with an outside firm to finish that out. The airport, you can see there's a pretty good list of things that are going on. Terminal building contracts were finalized today, so notice to proceed should come to us probably any day now with a pre-construction meeting, maybe next week or the week after. The only other main thing I wanted to hit was Great American Cleanup Week starts Monday and runs the span of next week. And then on Saturday, April 23rd, we actually have our community volunteer event we've actually had, I think, about 24 employees volunteer to participate in our community cleanup. And then it's obviously open to the public, so I hope to see a lot of people there. Kona Ice will be there, and I believe one other vendor to provide a little bit of food come lunchtime. So we'll make everybody pick up, and then we might feed them a little bit. So I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Chris. Are there any questions?
Were you responsible for contacting DOT to clean up the corridor going out West Spring to 78?
If it looks good, then yes.
It looks great. There were about 100.
No, I'm not gonna lie. That was not me, so I'm hoping they took upon themselves
Your
or someone
mind
else
might have done
called.
that. There were about 100 trash bags in that island yesterday from where there had been a massive cleanup.
I will say yes.
So thank you, Chris. In the CDBG project that's ongoing right now, it's at Felker Street, right?
Yes, in the Felker, Mobley, Colquitt, Hubbard, that area.
I think we have, and so is traffic calming.
Some of that, yeah, on Felker.
Okay.
It's definitely calmed right now, let me tell you, with all that construction going on.
And I believe the Polsons are here. I think I saw the Marolis, the Sams. We have a few folks from Felker, but the two that I want to point out, I see Mark standing in the back, and I saw Tara come in a little bit earlier. They're new grandparents, so congratulations. We're excited for you. Moving back to Chris with the airport lease agreement, please, sir.
Thank you, sir. This is a fairly simple request by the Mid-Georgia Soaring Association. They've been on the airport, maybe not as an entity or an organization, but they've been there since the beginning in some shape or form. And the organization is asking that they extend their lease in the facility that they use for an additional 5 years. So it's just continuing where they're currently at.
Are there any questions for Chris about that? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
A motion to approve by Mr. Gregory. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Little. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That passes. Moving to the purchase of a fire engine. Chief Dykes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the request to accept the quote from Fireline Incorporated for the amount of $613,415 for the purchase of a new fire engine. This going back to a process that we began in February, and you'll note that we are a little bit over by $38,415 what we anticipated based on cost increases, and that also accompanies an 18-month lead time if we were to place the order today. So the earlier we get started with the finalization of this project, the better for all of us.
18 months, or we can make it, though, till then.
Yes.
Just so they, will know if they want to burn the house down, you're going to be able to put it out.
Yes. This
All right, are there any,
will supplement our current fleet.
thank you, Andrew. Are there any questions for the chief?
Question, since we don't expect to take possession of this for 18 months, what is the payment schedule? How do we pay them?
Yeah, right now, we're kind of tentatively earmarking it from the ARPA funds. Since we're not gonna take delivery of it until at least the fourth quarter of '23, we may be able to re-budget as we go into next year. But this is really out of the ordinary to have to bring this to you tonight because of the extraordinary lead times. So we wanna go ahead and at least get in the queue.
I just wondered if we had to pay anything in advance, if that,
We're just locking in the PO right now.
okay, so we don't pay that until delivery or close to it?
Correct.
Okay, right, then, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve this.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley. There has a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Dickinson. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That passes. Moving to the utilities bid award for water treatment plant, Clearwell modifications and expansions. Rodney, do you want to take this one?
Thank you, Mayor. Seeking your approval tonight to award the Clearwell modification and expansion at the water plant to Lakeshore Engineering in the sum of $4,472,767.50. This will provide us with an extra 1 million gallons of finished water, which is needed as, you all know, we've increased water sales with all the development that's going on. This provides additional finished water storage. If you've got any questions, I'll be more than happy to take those.
We're permitted for 10 million coming out of the Alcovey,
Yes.
right? How much can we treat now?
The plant's capable of doing 10 as well.
Okay. Are there any questions for Mr. Middlebrooks?
Got a question. How much are we doing for Loganville?
Loganville right now is about 1.3 million a day.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a mo.
Is this a part of the overall plan for the upgrade? It's additional.
This was the, back when they originally designed the water plant. This was actually proposed then to come at a later date, but it's.
But the basic upgrade that we're doing now,
Well, that's at the wastewater plant.
it's all.
Right. This is the water.
Gonna be a
Yeah, this is for the water plant.
water plant, okay.
And we're paying for this.
This is the bond fund again.
Yeah.
So, we only budgeted around 2.9 to 3 million. But again, with the escalating cost environment, we're gonna use some of the contingency in that bond fund. And this is what I was talking about, to have that meeting next month, where we need to re-strategize. This one, I think we need to go ahead and go forward with, because the bids look pretty good when you start getting into it, especially the concrete prices were really solid upon review with the engineers. So I'm afraid if we put this back out for bid, we're gonna see an even greater cost escalation.
I have a motion to approve by Mr. Little. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gregory. Is there any discussion?
Rodney, do you have recommendations for this Lakeshore Engineering? as far as, I know
Yes.
we've had problems in the past with some
Oh,
properties.
yeah, Widom and Singleton has actually done several jobs with this group, and they highly recommend it.
Okay.
Makes me feel much better, too. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to old business for the preliminary plat review at River Point. We're going to push that off another month, but I do need a motion to table that until next
moved.
month. I have a motion by Ms. Malcolm. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Crawford. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Thank you. Moving to public hearings, under new business, conditional use of 700 Breedlove Drive. Mr. Calendar is here, I believe?
Yeah.
Where are you, Brad?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry, I can see you.
The conditional use request before the council this evening is for a 1.4 acre tract on Breedlove Drive. It's highlighted in red on the screen behind you. The property is currently Zone P for a professional office and institutional district. Currently has an existing office building on the site with associated parking. The applicant is requesting requesting a conditional use approval for the conversion of the building into apartments. The staff and the planning commission have taken a look at this request. Staff recommended approval subject to 2 conditions, and the planning commission voted unanimously to forward those 2 conditions with approval to city council. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Calendar. Are there any questions for Brad?
Not for Brad, but I just would like, Mr. Mayor, before we get into the public hearing, just clarify a potential legal issue, and that some people have told me that they go by there regularly, and the sign has not been there up until the last few days. And I just wondered if anyone can confirm that we're meeting the legal requirements for the signage.
Yes, those signs, sign was put out on March 7th. It could have been blown down at some point in the process between then and now. I don't know that, but every time I've been by it, it's been standing.
Okay. I just wanted to cover that before we went any further.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley. Any other questions before we open the public hearing? Hearing none, I'll declare this portion of the meeting open for public input. Is there anyone here who would like to speak for the conditional use in favor? Is there anyone?
Mayor, it'd be appropriate to have the applicant present at this time.
Oh, I'm sorry. Could I call the applicant forward? I appreciate that, Paul. Is the applicant here? Oh, yeah, come on up. I'm sorry, sir, your name?
Meet Carback. And my wife was supposed to be here too, but tonight was our first Georgia Walton Academy varsity soccer team playoff ever. So she decided to go that route. I'm here.
Well, congratulations. I think we're going to keep you a little bit, though, so I'll try not to hold you way past the game.
Thank you. Our plan is to convert this old building into something presentable to the neighborhood. And our goal is to make it like a gated community, adults, only 55 and above apartment, 1,000 square feet apartment with all the amenities that goes with it. And then back at the building, there's a little space that we like to get that ready for like a garden for the tenants to, if they want to go outside and have his little sit down and coffee and tea, what have you, so they have a little space there. And we're going to have a nice landscape in the front, so when people drive by, at least they will see a nice presentable building. And we try to keep it nice and clean for the community, and that's our goal.
Well, thank you. Are there any questions? I know we have to have some questions.
How many apartments you say gonna actually?
The square footage of the building is 6,080 feet. So we try to do a 6,000 feet apartment.
And would you or would you not plan on expanding to neighboring properties?
No, but that's the goal, to just stay with this building the way it is right now.
Okay.
My next question would be, did we change the code from what we just voted for a few years ago? Because from my understanding, apartments had to be 1,200 square feet. That's what we just voted on. So I'm confused about what planning and zoning is approving since this been an issue
No, the 1,200 square foot.
for apartments. Because I was saying in the last meeting that we were trying to make apartment 1,200 square foot, but saying houses could be 1,300 square feet.
Our houses are 1,600.
We have an infill overlay provision of 1,300.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
in the overlay, but that's a good question. Brad, do you know the answer?
A two-bedroom apartment is minimum square footage of 1,000 square feet.
Correct. It's 800 for a one bedroom, 1,000 for a two bedroom, and 1,200 for a three bedroom. Based upon Article 7 of the city zoning ordinance. And there was discussion about changing that, and now I'm having but I don't think the apartment provisions got changed. Brad may be able to speak to it. I know Mr. Kelly could, he's on vacation this week, but I think the R1A minimum acreage may have gotten adjusted when we were doing the infill overlay, but I don't ever recall, since we passed this ordinance, this zoning ordinance in 2014, I don't ever recall the apartment minimum square footages being changed.
Any other questions?
I have one, and that is, currently, do you have any contracts in place for an institutional use for these properties?
None. Nothing right now.
Not as of right now.
Mr. Dickinson?
My turn. All right, so that area through there is currently zoned professional. That building and the ones surrounding it have traditionally been used as office space. So my question is, why would you want to switch a commercial use that generally pays more money per square foot to a residential use?
One of the issue is that the building is built 1980s. It's old, number one. Number two is all the offices were designed for doctor offices. So that means any client that we have to bring in got to be a doctor, and we have to totally remodel the whole place completely. And for the past, since last year, my wife is a physician, by the way. So she talked to a lot of her co-workers to see if anybody's interested. Unfortunately, we haven't had none interest at all in that building. And we had a ambulance service company that occupied one of the buildings for a year. And unfortunately, they couldn't stay in Monroe because they couldn't get no business, supposedly, so they moved to Athens. So all the buildings been vacant since last year. We haven't had no inquiry about the buildings whatsoever.
Are the adjacent professional buildings vacant?
The adjacent is a family doctor, I think, on the left. On the right is a multi-office building, which is on the right-hand side. There's one, I think, attorney, and they have a food pantry on one side of it, and I don't know exactly what else.
And then the building across the street?
Across the
isn't that a
street,
medical
which
center?
belongs to Athens
Athens
Orthopedic.
Orthopedic?
Yeah,
They just bought it, right?
They just bought it, yes.
Okay.
Actually, Dr. Harkin bought it, Dr. Harkin and Dr. Smith. That belongs to them.
So they're able to fill up that much larger?
I haven't
building?
really, half that building's empty. Because the reason, what I'm saying is, since the building was empty, Dr. Harkin had to bring their office, which was at the Piedmont Hospital, back to here, because this way they didn't have to pay rent to Piedmont Hospital, and they brought all the staff and everybody to occupy the space. This way it won't stay empty. Our goal, if we could have filled the building with professional staff, we would have been happy to do it.
Well, didn't they pay like $1 million for that building they just bought? Athens Orthopedic?
Across the street,
Mhm.
I think $1.5 million.
Okay.
One more question, and of course, I'm in real estate. We
Yeah, I know,
recently,
I've seen you.
we recently had a client that was looking for space. And I did not find your building on the open market because we searched all over Monroe and actually found an investor that bought a building that was not set up for an office for a doctor and is transforming it. But I never saw your building on the open market.
Since the ambulance service company moved out, we decided maybe we should go to adult community buildings, so we never advertised it. Till that's the reason.
Okay, thank you.
Is it your intent for this to be a 55-plus apartment complex?
Yes, yes, sir.
Do we have any other questions?
Ms. Malcolm, when you were asking, did he have any institutional clients, did you mean just people who were already signed up and ready to go, or were you referring to people from across the road, maybe at Ridgeview or that kind of thing?
No one in particular.
Okay.
But just the idea that he may have some institutional clients, or contracts that could take these immediately when they're finished.
Okay.
No, we don't have anybody.
I just wanted to clarify.
Anyone else? Thank you, sir, for coming in. We might come right back to you in a few minutes, okay? Now, Paul, I'll declare this portion of the meeting open for public input. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor of this conditional use? Do you have anyone here who would like to speak against the conditional use? Yes, sir. Would you please come forward? No, you're good.
Had good questions. So I'm going to repeat some of them. I read through this. It would take me about 4 minutes, but I do have a little bit of a congestion from the doggone pollen, so it might take me just a little bit longer.
Before you do that, Debbie, this is Mr. Ron Norris. Do you live your neighboring?
Yeah, I'm Ron Norris. I'm 618 Breedlove Court, just off Breedlove Drive.
How many minutes does he have?
You have 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay, great. These are some of my neighbors.
Hang on 1 second, Mayor, sorry. There's a total of 10 minutes available to those in favor and a total of 10 minutes available to those in opposition. And this is a little bit different than public comment. It's a public hearing. And you have the authority to extend that time, but any time extended to one side must be available and added to the other side, including time for the applicant.
Okay, I'll give you 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you. These are some of my neighbors. And if you would raise your hands or stand so that we could be seen. This is certainly not all of my neighbors. We wish we would have had more time to bring more neighbors here, which is going to be one of the things that I'm talking about. Thank you, guys. You can put it back down. My wife Stephanie and I moved back to Monroe about 5 years ago. I drive 48 miles each way to work to downtown on Peachtree Street every day, and I do that because we love Monroe. I lived here when I was a kid, from kindergarten to 4th grade. This is when Jesus was a baby, back in the 60s, okay? We have a really, really great neighborhood in the Retreat. One of the best developments inside the city limits. We've got about 75 homes, and we have a tremendous problem here today, and we need your help. I don't care what everybody else just said. We need your help. We knew nothing about the planning committee meeting on 3/15, or that this issue would even be coming to your attention today. We knew nothing. I found out Saturday when I saw the sign for the very first time. And that's one of the main issues here. No one knew that this was happening. Logan said he saw it once back in March, and Logan's a good man. I take Logan's word for it. I don't know what happened to it after that. Nobody here saw it. I saw it Saturday, took a picture, posted it on Facebook. People are freaking out. So Saturday was the first time we were able to see this sign. Y'all ever see Christmas with the Cranks, the movie?
Terrible.
It's a terrible movie. You ever know Vic Frohmeyer that's on there? He's the leader of the HOA, or Mrs. Kravitz from Bewitched, right? We have a lot of those people that live in our neighborhood. They know everything that's going on. If they had known about this, you would have seen the dust clouds from the wagon train circling at your house, Mayor Howard. So here's the problem. Someone apparently buys an old building that's adjacent to our subdivision and lets it deteriorate further over the course of a year. This building is zoned professional and office. They knew it when they bought it. Now, on the application, the applicant states that the building has been vacant for more than a year without even one inquiry. Why would you buy a building and just leave it vacant and try not to fix it up? Why wouldn't you try to fix it up and rent it? At least cut the grass. At least move the pallets that are in the front yard, right? That was a good question that you had. Rent for office space almost always creates more revenue than residential leasing, right? So why would he do this? Are we now supposed to feel sorry for him that he maybe made a bad decision? And then it's our job to help him out. I bought that. I made a bad decision. I need to do something else, all right? So we're supposed to help him out. Or could his plan have been to state that he couldn't rent it, then to get approval for conditional use? He creates this 3D drawing that's on the screen behind you. And I'll be honest, it admittedly looks better than the current building. And he says it's going to be for affordable 55 and older independent apartment community. So it's going to be like the apartments at the mill, right? Affordable subsidized apartments, okay. But why not spend the same amount of money to rehab it and make better professional offices? If you get more revenue from professional offices, why wouldn't you spend the money to do that instead of doing these people, the tenants, this regular residential tenants? So I think this is a red herring. The drawing of the proposed site is intended to be a shiny object for people to focus on. Hey, look at this shiny object back there. Look at this right here. Don't look at anything over here. That's not what we want you to look. And I'm going to tell you this because except there's something to see here. The Planning Code and Development Department lays it out for us, Mayor. In their approval document to this council, it should be on your desk. In section 10, we see the real purpose. Quote, granting this request could potentially influence a positive trend of redevelopment from offices to apartments on the neighboring properties. So now wait, redevelop the neighboring properties. This is what's in writing from the city of Monroe. So this would encompass the building that comes out of our subdivision, the road that comes out of our subdivision, the building that's right there, the one that he's talking about. It could also be the one to the left there, and then you got that whole space wide open, right? So we drop one thing, what happens? It is a domino effect, isn't it? One gets, well, you've approved me once, why can't you approve me this time? The Planning Commission also states that the conversion of the existing office building to apartments will not negatively impact property values on adjacent properties. Now that's a definitive statement. It will not affect property values. So is this a guarantee? Who's guaranteeing this? That's a definitive statement, that it will not affect the value of our properties. In section 8, I'm almost there. The use will not be an extension which will cause a damaging volume of higher density residential use into the stable neighborhood of well-maintained single-family homes. And that's our neighborhood. Now, how could it be true if their goal is previously stated to make the adjacent properties also apartments? Apartments are higher density. You know it, I know it. And to quote Bob Dole, the American people know it. This is the problem. We have to think about what it means for the future and the cause and the effect of our actions right now, today. We're not talking about just this little building, this one and done. That's a shiny object, I guarantee it. The apparent goal of the applicant and the Planning Commission seems to be suggesting that making all of these buildings into apartments is a good thing, and let them be adjacent to the backyards of our neighbors, right there, the big yellow ones. So we just found out about this. We need your help. Why was this so secret? We're asking you to deny this application. Let the applicant rehab the site and use it as it's intended, as professional and office. Alcovey Street apartments are not a one-on-one comparison. I've heard that. It's not true. This isn't what Monroe needs. Monroe is different. Have you been to Loganville lately? Have you been to Grayson lately? We lived in Grayson for 16 years. It's a shame. It's a sham what's going on there. Monroe doesn't need to become Loganville or Grayson. We need your help to stop this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming in. Do I have anyone else here who would like to speak against? If you'd like to speak for, you may.
My name's Josh Parker, and didn't really come here to speak on this issue tonight, but felt led to speak to it. There's two sides to every coin. I kind of know the history of that area. Actually, grew up going to the doctor right next door to the office building to that, Dr. Mohan. Years ago, you know that right across the street from there was a hospital. And that's the reason a lot of these buildings popped up around there, like this one, because there was a hospital. Therefore, it created a demand for doctor's offices. Well, we all know where the hospital's at now. It's out off West Spring Street, across from Home Depot. Since then, a lot of other office buildings have popped up around it. I'm a local real estate professional. I think this is a great idea. If it's going to look like what he says it's going to look like, and especially if it's going to be for 55-year or older, because there's a huge demand. I agree with him as far as the demand. There's a huge demand, way more of demand for residential housing than commercial, in my professional opinion. And to create something like this for older citizens that's going to be affordable, I think that would be great. One of the things about living in a city, to talk to the people that live in the neighborhood that are here to, opposed to it, one of the things about living in the city limits, it allows for dense housing because you've got sewer and infrastructure in place to allow things like this to happen. I think what this guy is trying to do, essentially, he's trying to recycle this property. He's trying to take it and turn it into something better. Obviously, there's zoning and codes and ordinances and things of that nature that are involved, but I know there's a huge demand, and I'm sure there's some old folks out there, or I say old, excuse me, but no offense, there's some older folks out there that could really, really benefit from this type of housing.
Closer to that.
From this type of housing. So, I don't think it's, if he's going to do it the way, like I said, it's really nice design. I think with the code and the zoning ordinances that are in place, I think it's going to be a quality product. I don't know this gentleman. I've never seen his work before or what he does. I don't know his reputation. And I guess if the people that live in the subdivision behind it, if they don't like it, I guess they need to call me or Lee Malcolm to sell their house.
Okay.
But
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
But I just want to say that because, like I said, I just know being in the real estate marketplace, there is a huge demand for multifamily rentals. And there's also, right down the road from there, that's what you have. You have apartments for seniors right down the road. So that's all I have to say. I know not all people ain't going to like it, but like I said, there's two sides to every coin.
Thank you, folks. Ms. Kirk, that's Josh Parker. All right, thank you. Is there anyone here else who would like to speak in favor? No, sir. No, sir. I'll now declare that portion of the meeting closed. We'll revisit that in just a few moments.
There you had someone
Did I have another one?
on the left when you said.
stood up.
Somebody stood up.
Did I have another one to speak in favor? I'm sorry, sir, I didn't see you. Let's declare this portion of the meeting back open.
When you talk about old people, you're going to meddling now. And what I would like to say, I don't know where this guy lives. I don't know him from Adam's house cat. He may be in the real estate business. Of course, he likes to sell property. He's in the real estate business. Well, if I was in the ice cream business, I would sell ice cream.
One second.
Yeah.
Your name?
Glenn Lakin.
Glenn Lincoln?
Lakin.
Lakin, very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you,
You're
Mayor.
speaking against.
I'm speaking definitely against it.
Okay.
I don't know where this guy lives. Obviously, he doesn't live around where we do. So he has no interest in what we have. So I am totally against it because what it's going to do to our property values, I don't know the future of that, but I can't believe that it's going to help our property values at this time. So as far as I'm concerned, I am asking y'all, please don't approve this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lakin. Now,
Mayor, if the applicant wants any rebuttal, we need to give the applicant rebuttal time. It's their burden. They would have the opportunity to have the last word.
yes, sir, please. Been all over the place on this one.
I know a lot of the neighbors behind us think this is going to be jeopardizing the real estate value and what have you. But the way it is right now, they were talking about professional people coming in. I had a couple of tenants wanting to put dog kennel here. So we told them no. We have a bunch of dog kennel.
Well, that wouldn't have been allowed anyway.
You know,
By the zoning, that would not.
right, but we have.
Dog kennel. A dog kennel.
Kennel, yeah, kennel, yeah. But anyway, we had another ambulance services that they want to put a lot of ambulances there. So it would have been noisy proposition in and out all day long, all the traffic with the ambulance vehicle coming in and out, but we declined it, we said no. So I know the gentleman says why they don't want to spend the money to make the office back for the doctor's offices. If you know any doctor would like to move in, I'd be happy to listen to them.
Direct your comments to the council.
Right, I'm sorry. But we have, I'm telling you, we just talked to a few of our friends, our doctors. They're all close to the hospital. Nobody wants to come to that area for the office professional. And then the proposal that we have, I promise you, is going to be, the way what we're proposing is going to be extremely professionally done. It's not going to be something that's going to jeopardize the value of the buildings behind us or something that is going to jeopardize the neighborhood. It's going to be something professionally done, and it's going to be something that the people will like. That's our goal.
Thank you, sir. Sure. Anything else? Now, I'll declare that portion of the meeting closed. We'll revisit that in just a few minutes. Moving to the comprehensive plan, Ms. Marilyn Hall and Bobby Seals from Hall Consulting are here. I have Logan and Sadie and Brad, and who would like to go first?
I'm going to turn it over to Marilyn and let her
Go, Marilyn.
give the presentation.
And unfortunately, Bobby couldn't make it. He sends his regrets. Good evening. The purpose of this presentation is to share a summary of the comprehensive plan before it is transmitted to the Northeast Georgia Regional Commission. I'm going to first remind everybody what the comprehensive plan is, talk about the community engagement efforts that went into it, and briefly, I don't want to take all night. Really, I could talk about this for hours. Some of you have heard me do that. Talk about some of the needs and opportunities and goals, and then our recommendations that are based on all of those things. Jump right in. The comprehensive plan is a 20-year blueprint to guide growth. It is it should be used by the council and others as the basis for future zoning and capital facilities decisions. It's required to be updated every 5 years. The last one was done in 2017 as part of the Walton County Comprehensive Plan. And finally, you have to have a comprehensive plan according to state law to stay a qualified local government, which allows you to have access to state funding, grants and loans and whatnot. We had a lot of public engagement. I think a lot of folks, I know the council has been participating, and I imagine a bunch of the folks here have also. We had a public hearing in December, and then a visioning workshop attended by about 100 people in January, and a strategic framework workshop in February with about 60 folks. And then last month, we had our open house with about 25 people, and that's where we vetted the recommendations that we're briefly going to be presenting tonight. And then today's the public hearing, which is required by state law before transmittal to the Regional Commission. We also had a series of steering committee meetings that went along with the workshops, and we used the steering committee to help us understand what the community wants and needs were at the time. We also have a website, monroe-compplan.com. You guys can see it up on the screen. If you want to see a copy of the plan, it's up there right now. We distributed flyers through the city and through the steering committee. We did about a dozen stakeholder interviews and had comment forms and online surveys. The elements of the plan include population, housing, and education, transportation, economic development, parks, recreation, open space, historic preservation, community facilities, utilities and broadband, land use and development, and finally the community work program, which is the to-do list, which includes the recommendations. I'm going to jump right into the goals, and this is based on public input and analysis of data and trends, and the recommendations are based on best practices in planning and trends and our professional opinion and what the city and residents told us. So the first goal of the three is to provide housing opportunities that ensure Monroe is a lifetime, multi-generational community for residents across the socioeconomic spectrum, and to address substandard housing and to address local poverty. The goals. Recommendations are to become a GIC alumni community, and GIC stands for the Georgia Initiative for Community Housing, and it helps communities create and launch a locally based plan to meet housing needs. And back in 2016 and 2019, Monroe participated in the plan and had a lot of success with it. And if the city becomes a certified alumni community, it would allow the city to build on that success and give them a competitive advantage over other communities in accessing state funding to help with poverty and housing issues. The second recommendation we have is to diversify housing stock through form-based codes. So traditional zoning focuses on the allowed uses of the land based on the idea that each space should have one singular use, whereas form-based zoning focuses on building form as it relates to streetscape and adjacent uses. And form-based codes encourage mixed uses and rely on design concepts and patterns that are intended to preserve the assets and character of a community. And this promotes affordable housing because form-based codes promote a wide range of housing options. The next set of recommendations are to develop a renter's rights program, which would be a program to educate renters on their rights. And there are laws that protect renters who report maintenance issues, and these same laws protect landlords who try to evict them for reporting maintenance issues. And so educating renters could make a difference to eliminating substandard housing in our community, in Monroe. And then the second one on the slide is the facilitate the creation of a land trust. The city should explore the feasibility of helping coordinate the creation of a land trust. They can do things like develop commercial spaces affordable rental and cooperative housing projects, and conserve land or urban green space. But the heart of their work is the creation of homes that remain permanently affordable, providing successful homeownership opportunities for generations of lower income families. And the Athens Land Trust is a model of a successful land trust, and they are willing to come to Monroe and help folks here set up a land trust. The next set of recommendations are to pre-approve ADUs, which are accessory development unit designs. And that would build on the momentum of the recently passed ADU ordinance. And if the city should consider pre-approving several designs that comply with codes and market them to homeowners and builders to create the missing middle housing that is so desperately needed, not just in Monroe, but everywhere. And many cities out west offer these pre-approved housing plans, and some metro Atlanta cities are in the process of developing them. I suggest that you wait a few years and see what they come up with. It's just an idea. But it should be something you consider in the next few years at least. The next is timing is great after just hearing from Walton Works, but it's promote educational opportunities. You know, many residents of Monroe are unaware of the opportunities available at their Athens Tech campus. For example, graduates of its Machine Tools Certificate program can expect starting pay of $22 an hour, and those are the kids that she was talking about earlier. And after completing the 2-year program, they can expect $29 an hour. And another opportunity, obviously, is to support Walton Works, which we already heard about today, and their workforce programs help local residents connect with local jobs. The next set of recommendations about population housing and education are encourage infill development. And infill development converts once empty and dilapidated lots into residential developments. Infill development allows residents to have easy access to existing transportation systems and jobs and promotes walkability. In broader terms, infill development allows more people of various socioeconomic backgrounds to participate in the local economy. And then finally, in this section, is systematic code enforcement. The city should replace its current complaint-based code enforcement system with a systematic code enforcement system. There's a variety of ways to do this. For example, the city could be divided up into zones, and each zone is inspected on a rotating basis. And residents and landlords would be given plenty of time, lots of warning, could be a year before inspections or months. And the goal of this is not to issue a bunch of citations, it's instead to encourage compliance. So the code enforcement officers go there and it's already in compliance. That's the goal. It's not to issue citations. So that's population housing and education. It's a 100-page document, and you all have a copy, so I'm going very fast through it. The next set of goals are transportation, and there are 2 primary goals for transportation. The first is to provide non-automotive transportation alternatives to residents in all areas of the city. And the idea is to connect people to downtown and activity centers through a network of safe sidewalks and trails. Now, this is largely addressed in the land use element, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, and then also through the development of a trails master plan. Second goal is to make sure the city's priorities are included in the Georgia Department of Transportation's priority project list. And this is really easy to say, it's very hard to do, but it's also a good goal for administration and y'all to work on. And since transportation is so embedded in land use, that's all we have to say about it. The next one is also embedded in land use is economic development. And the first goal is to continue to seek out state and federal incentive programs and basically continue what you're doing. The city of Monroe and surrounding areas have had above average economic activity compared to the rest of the state, and you keep it up. The second goal is concerns the jobs housing balance in the community. The residents have expressed the desire for more live, work, play areas within the city, and focusing on the jobs housing balance can help implement that. So what that means is right now, the jobs housing balance in Monroe means that for every job, there's one house, one home. Increasing it to 1.5, which is what we're recommending, would make it 1.5 jobs to every home. You can do that by promoting mixed-use development and encouraging commercial and other forms of employment. All right, now we're gonna go to parks, open space, natural areas, and historic preservation. That's a lot of categories all sandwiched into one group because it's Monroe, and your historic preservation is really inextricably linked with your open spaces, parks, and natural resources. So the first goal is to increase the sense of community and encourage healthy living by developing parks, playgrounds, passive and organized recreation opportunities, safe spaces for walking and bicycling, green space, and accessibility for abilities and ages, for all abilities and ages. That's a mouthful. It's just a vision statement for the Park and Recs Department. The other goals include preserving natural and cultural resources by concentrating development in and around established areas and preserving these resources in all sub-areas. And then finally, continue to protect and promote historic resources. And to accomplish these goals, we recommend the creation of a Friends of the Park organization. It would be a tax-exempt organization separate from the City of Monroe municipal government. The organization would be eligible for funds from partnering foundations and can be an attractive partner for individual donors. It can also engage in outreach and marketing efforts, organize volunteers, build community stewardship, and conduct remedial maintenance on the parks. Second is a park master plan for the park system. And currently, the city is working on a master plan for the parks, and participants in the visioning workshops and the open house suggested that their highest priority was to complete the town green. As such, the master plan should probably focus on the town green first. We also heard a lot of folks tell us that the park plan should ensure that parks and recreational opportunities are available throughout the city to all residents and include parks, recreation, and open spaces in all sub-areas, not just in a few. Additional recommendations include, the continued loss of trees and natural vegetation. The loss of trees and natural vegetation to land development signals the need to update the city's tree protection requirements, and the city has changed significantly since the tree inventory and management plan were developed in 2008 and needs to be updated. Additionally, the green space and open space will need to be prioritized in any new codes. There are many different approaches to regulating the type, scale, form, and intensity of allowable development in a form-based code. Protection and inclusion of green space and open space should be explicitly incorporated when the city is developing the new form-based code, and I'll be talking about that in a minute. Finally, the plan recommends completing the inventory of historic structures to have an accurate account of historical housing and to revisit the historic district boundaries. And this would require utilizing grants and other funding, revisiting the historic preservation ordinance, and updating it if needed. And this could include design guidelines and processes for the Historic Preservation Commission. All right, the next section is community facilities, utilities, and broadband. And the city is doing pretty well keeping up with demands and providing services. But with what we've heard about high utility costs and the impacts, and what we've researched and found out about the impacts of new growth, we recommend that the city calculate and implement development impact fees to offset new development's fair share of costs for new community facilities as allowed by state law, and that the water and wastewater utility recalculate connection fees to be sure they are at an appropriate level given the need for wastewater treatment capacity and the need for fire flow improvements in the northern part of the city. And then a comparison of typical bills for the various services offered by Monroe. That should be regularly published either in the annual budget or or elsewhere, comparing a typical bill in Monroe to typical bills in comparable communities in Northeast Georgia. And then you'll know, like, are our bills too high, or our rates too high, or are they not? Compare them to other folks. It could help you moving forward. And then finally, adopting a model broadband ordinance and applying for a broadband-ready community will make you eligible to receive funding for broadband. All right, land use and development. The goals of land use and development are to improve the economic base of the city and reduce poverty through additional employment opportunities. And that is to promote the 1.5 jobs, the 1.5 jobs housing balance, and to provide more local jobs, the development of affordable housing, and providing a walkable, interconnected, grid-based community, and to provide a variety of housing choices. Recommendations include developing form-based codes. Form-based codes will need to be developed and replace existing traditional zoning ordinance. The SMART code developed for the LCI project can be used and adjusted accordingly. And a developer workshop, the city should host a developer workshop to help developers understand the purpose of the comprehensive plan and the opportunities that it presents in each of the sub-areas in Monroe. And then finally, a Unified Development Ordinance, or UDO, is a single regulatory document that guides development within a jurisdiction, and this includes zoning and subdivision regulations, infrastructure requirements, design guidelines, things like that. And currently, there are a lot of development regulations in various places in Monroe's code, and there's that, and a developer needs to consult with several different city departments for plans approval. A UDO makes the development process more efficient. And along with that, a committee, a development approval committee, plans approval committee made up of city staff that meets on a regular basis would help streamline development. So, I've already covered, if you could believe it, the major elements of the city's draft plan. This is just a snapshot of some of the items in the community work plan or the to-do list. Like I said, it's a 5-year to-do list for the city. For example, the first item on this list is to implement development impact fees, and another on there is to update the historic preservation ordinance and design. And it shows, it's not on the column, but what it shows is the item, the year of implementation, the organization who's responsible, could be the city or the tree board, Historic Preservation Commission, how much it is estimated to cost, and where the money would be coming from. So that's what's in the comprehensive plan. And the next step is for the city to transmit it to the regional commission, and they'll review it for compatibility with regional plans and double check that it has all the required components. And later tonight, you all will be asked to vote on a transmittal resolution to formalize transmission to the regional commission for their review.
Thank you, Marilyn. Are there any questions?
Within this comprehensive plan that we submit, if there are things that we want to edit within that plan, are we allowed to go back and make edits during, at any point in time? Or is this something?
Yeah, we can always do comp plan updates. It's a little more involved process, but right now it's a draft document, so if you've got anything on your mind, let us know right now, and we can work with Marilyn to incorporate this.
Well, in our existing comprehensive plan, I believe in regards to what we're looking at tonight, it does say that professional apartments can be placed upon a conditional use if the council so chooses. And I would personally like to have discussion with the council of whether we want to leave that in there or whether we want to see that removed. And I don't know if we need to get into that at this point or if that's a matter of discussion for later.
So the comp plan will generally lay out some character area definitions and zones and how, and its intended uses, but it doesn't really get into the full-blown zoning ordinance,
Right.
which you're referencing as a conditional
But,
use on a
but in Brad's overview, he continues to say that this is within the comprehensive plan, you know,
In the current comprehensive plan,
right.
yes.
And is it in this one that we're about to have approved? That's my point.
So it does allow for redevelopment in this plan, which we've talked about at length throughout many, many meetings.
Right.
But you're the ultimate arbiters of any of these decisions that come before you. So if it's not fitting what you feel is comfortable, you still have that right, no matter what this comprehensive plan says.
Part of it says that we can allow it, and if it
Right.
said cannot, it would give no leeway. So
I'd like to follow a little bit, I guess, on what Malcolm's saying. First of all, compliments to you for the public input side of this. I thought that was tremendous. And the document itself, I think, is a good document from the standpoint of the tables, the recommendations, the general recommendations, the statistics that back everything up. I was a little concerned, and we first admit I haven't studied every line item in it, but I did read through it. And I don't, and maybe it's just something I don't know what I'm supposed to be looking for, but I don't see the plan. I know we talk about this being a comprehensive plan. I don't see a plan for the future. I see some general recommendations, but not necessarily a plan. And I guess I just have the question, am I reading it correct? Or is this what we expect to have that we submit? Because I don't see the plan. I don't see the plan. I'm just going to follow just one thing what Ms. Malcolm just said. I had asked Mr. Callan, he can speak to it later if he wants to, but in this draft we have now of a comprehensive plan, if I look at the situation we just talked about with the apartments, how does that fit into this draft of a comprehensive plan? And I went through it, and I can find one little phrase in there that maybe recommends we do some mixture of types of things. But I don't see the things about what are we going to do for development. For example, if someone wants to put I'll take a wild thing, an apartment complex right downtown Monroe on an empty lot over on Spring Street, right? I can't see in the comprehensive plan whether that's something we would encourage or discourage. And I don't know, maybe I'm not looking at it correctly. I don't see the plan. I see some recommendations, but I don't see a plan.
Yeah, each sub-area has a variety of goals. For example, the downtown, you would want to balance commercial and retail with, you know what, let me see if I have this up here.
I mean, I just use that as a thing. I'm just looking for the plan. How we want to promote development, for example.
Right. The overall idea is to use the plan. It's intentionally puts it on the council or the decision maker to balance what's in each sub-area. For example, let me describe the transects to you. So the plan is divided up into 8 sub-areas. The north, northwest, far west, south, and east. And instead of doing traditional character areas, we are relying on the form-based code using transects. So the idea is that in the downtown area, we'll be in the T5 and T6 urban center zone and urban core zone. And the form-based code has the details on what that would entail. And it relates to how the streets are gridded, how the distance between the sidewalk and the buildings, and the feel of the character of the area. And the idea is to kind of expand. You'll notice that it goes all the way out to natural zone, but since this is a city, it goes to T3 and some of the areas that are further out. And in the form-based codes is where you will see those guidelines. And the first thing on the to-do list is to develop the form-based code.
That's
and
what I was going to say.
Yes.
You're relying, this whole plan is relying heavily on us equipping ourselves with the form-based code within our ordinance.
That's right.
And our zoning.
That's right, and you have
We
a
don't
really
have that yet.
excellent foundation with that LCI form-based code.
Right, okay.
So to get into it a little deeper, this is kind of the 100,000-foot view of a concept plan for the city of Monroe. I think it would be a fallacy of this body to go ahead and try to pinpoint how every single thing should look 20 years out. I think we would do ourselves a disservice trying to figure out how the city is going to look. It's basically master planning down, too far down. You're drilling too far down into that plan. What we'll do from here is create form-based codes. We'll create new master plans of different districts, of sub-areas. We'll create, the private market will then create new developments based off of these codes in this plan. This is supposed to be somewhat loose in interpretation to some degree, which
It's a guiding.
it's a, yeah, it is. It's a guide. So, I mean, the transects really get into it. You know, it goes dense on out into like the south areas, generally larger lot sizes where the retreat is. So it's really just a guiding document that's supposed to be a baseline that everything else is built off of. The parks master plan will then be derived from this. The sidewalk master plan will then be derived from this, if that makes
So
sense.
the idea of this is that these are recommendations of things that should go into the planning process as we go forward.
Yes. It's a continuation of a plan.
And if I could just add a little bit of historical perspective, being in part of that code rewrite committee from 2000 and I think it was 11 until we adopted 2014. The consultants then the consultants in 2008 and then again when we did the charrettes for the code rewrite in 2010, I believe it was, specifically recommended adoption of form-based code, of the SMART code. That was part of our report. That was part of all the things we talked about then. And the feedback from maybe some of y'all, but certainly not all of y'all because it was a different composition of a council at that time, was we like this idea, but we're not ready to do it yet. That was pretty much the message in 2014. So let's adopt a new zoning ordinance, which is our July 1, 2014 zoning ordinance that we adopted in 2014. Let's adopt a new zoning ordinance that's better than the one that was drafted in 97, which is what we did, but it's not all the way to form-based code. And so, you know, here's your 2022 report that says adopt form-based code. So it would require passing a new one of these books, right? So this is your zoning ordinance that governs the specifics that you're concerned about with whatever this conditional use issue is, that governs the specifics about density and all those sort of things. It's taking the 2014 zoning ordinance and rewriting it either right now just as a new zoning ordinance and then later dropping it into a UDO, which I think that we certainly need because of the whole question of which book,
Totally agree.
which book govern, you know, which book governs. But just to give you all a little bit of historical perspective is that this is sort of your 2022 guiding document that's saying, hey, adopt form-based codes. And we talked about it. Y'all talked about it in 2014, and the decision was we really like this, and if somebody wants to come along and recommend like a PRD or a PCD, we'll, you know, that's in form-based code, we will. We're not ready to do it yet, but that's what's before you now is.
This 2014 code that was adopted when I was on planning commission, this guiding map kind of works nicely with that until we get the actual form-based code passed, right? Because the unified development
Well, I'll just say that it's a whole lot better than the 97 code, zoning ordinance that we had. But if y'all want to do a lot of the things that I hear y'all are saying you want to do, and a lot of things that the public is saying they want you to do, and all that based upon this comp plan update, then y'all need the form-based
I
code.
mean, we don't have to do it tomorrow. I'm just saying.
We couldn't do it
We're gonna have to work on it.
Yes,
But we don't want to hold off on this.
yes.
This guy-
You've got to do this in order to even really get to it, because you got to do your comp plan update.
I really like the Unified Development Ordinance. And you say you would recommend waiting on those ADU plans? Because I think we've had some discussion. Sadie and I have. I think Norman's got one underway.
I didn't put them in 2022 on the short-term work program to give you some time to see what City of Atlanta and maybe Decatur are doing.
Gotcha. Are there any
Not
other
that you want to
questions?
look like them, but you would change them to look like Monroe, but you know what I mean.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from Ms. Hall?
Well, I have one, and that is, we hear weekly, we need affordable housing. Please give me a definition of affordable housing in today's world.
In today's world, I have to rely on on HUD, and affordable housing officially is 30% of the household income would go towards housing costs, and this does not include utilities and transportation to and from your work and whatnot. 30% of your income at 80% of the median income for the area. And there's a page in the comp plan that specifically defines what that number is for Monroe.
Okay.
And off the top of my head, I can't recall exactly what it is. I think it's for a 2-bedroom apartment, it's roughly $750 a month.
That's
I
not to
know.
be found.
I know, and affordable home ownership is completely market-driven, so it's a very tough issue. So addressing the poverty and the jobs issue hopefully can raise people up so they can afford more than that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Millen. Are there any other questions for Ms. Hall? Have a seat, we'll do the public, and then we'll probably call you back. I'll declare this portion of the meeting open for the purpose of public input. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak in favor of the updated comp plan? It's all perfect and awesome, and you're great with it, and that's that. Is there any, I'm sorry? Yes, sir.
I don't know what the definition, well, my name is Ronnie Coleman. I don't know what the definition of affordable housing is, but I feel like I'm a little concerned with some of the things that I'm seeing just all across this country. I'm seeing private businesses purchasing homes, and when they purchase them, they have rent for whatever amount they want. They could go up for whatever amount they want. So I do like numerous times it mentioned in there affordable housing. And I don't have a good definition for it, but it should be, if I'm working somewhere and I'm working full time, I should be able to have some housing. Especially if I have a spouse and we're both working and we're working full time somewhere. We should be able to have some housing. If I work at McDonald's right now and I could be full time and my wife worked there and she's full time, I could tell you now, even looking around Monroe, we have dilapidated houses that are being torn down. We have houses that are rebuilt, and those houses are high. They're very high. I feel real sorry for a young couple that's trying to start out and own a home. When I was around that age, housing, and with me having a career job, I could afford to get a house. houses are high right now. So I like the plan that it was trying to address affordable housing. But I think also it needs to address minimum wages to where you could afford even the affordable housing. Because it's just, for me, and I'm not a money maker, so I know money makers just want to make their money. But for me, what I'm seeing across this whole nation is very concerning to me. Because even if I had limited income as an elderly person, I would have a hard time finding affordable housing. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you know Mr. Coleman, I guess we'll say officially retired from Monroe area last year. He's worked with the kids at Monroe area for a couple of decades. The 3 decades that he was teaching, he looks a lot better than I do after my last 3 decades. So thank you for your input. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in favor of the document? Is there anyone here who'd like to speak against or share some concerns? Hearing none, we'll declare that portion of the meeting closed, and no action will be taken at this time. I would like a motion for a 5-minute recess.
Move.
Motion to approve a 5-minute recess.
Ms. Malcolm with the motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gregory. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. We'll be back at 7:41. be like the Fox Theater and turn the lights on and off?
I have to.
Maybe we lost a couple.
And look, I've already drank a bottle.
So what?
Yeah, you're gonna keep the.
Tell Paul he didn't have a school teacher bladder. Because they're different.
That is, no, that's the truth. Julie and I, you know, the husbands and wives get in that argument of, you don't think I work very hard. Well, you can go to the bathroom anytime you want.
That's it.
We're on preservation. Welcome back, everybody. I'm moving next to Historic Preservation Commission Appeal at 108 North Street. Mr. Callender?
I'm sorry. I don't have anything to present for this appeal item.
Okay. Well, I have Mr. Parker here, and I will give you a little brief update. And I have the HPC here. Mr. Parker was working on a home, and I'll let you, it's 108 Norris Street. There was some question about the windows and the mullions, I think, and I'm not sure what else. But would an HPC member like to speak?
I can't hear you.
Yes, ma'am. Would you like to come forward? Okay.
But Ms.
Okay.
Brassey may.
All right, Faye, I could have any member of the HPC or Mr. Callender who would like to explain the situation at 108 North Street. Mr. Parker put in windows that were not approved by historical preservation. Were there any other issues with that, or was it simply the windows? Okay. Is there anyone on council who would have any questions for Mr. Callender or members of the Historical Preservation Commission?
Well, I think the background on this needs to be clarified by either Mr. Callender or the Historic Preservation.
Let me just
or
give you an
Mr.
overview
Rhodes.
of what is being appealed here, first of all. There is an appeal of the Historic Preservations Commission to their decision to deny a certificate of appropriateness for new windows at 108 North Street. This is being appealed by owner Josh Parker. The denial was based on the site's failure to comply with the requirements for the type of windows installed and material change in the appearance of the property located within a designated historic property. So that's the basis of the HPC denial.
I think Mr. Dickinson had a question.
All right, we're up here. I need to ask you a question. All right, so somebody clarify for me, because I went by the house today. So what was the actual dispute? Was it that the windows you put in do not look exactly like the windows you took out?
Essentially.
What's the issue here?
Yeah, essentially, yeah. The windows that were in it were a 6/6 style, and I put a 2/1 style window back in. I did not change the size of the window.
That's what I thought.
Didn't change the texture of, it went back with the wood window. The only thing that was changed was the pattern.
The mullions.
The mullions, yes.
All right, but isn't this correct, that if you go throughout the Mill Village, there's no real uniformity in the windows that are in those houses? They're different ones. Some of them are 6/6, some of them are single over single, some of them are 2/1.
Yeah, there's
a
no
wide variety.
there's no congruence throughout, and I replaced the windows before getting approval to basically secure the property, and then once the code department got involved, they said that I needed to go before the HPC I took it more as a formality, and I applied. And the first go around, my sister came to, speak on my behalf because I was out of town, and it was denied. And then I came back before the board a second time to kind of show the state of that street and show the windows and kind of, ask for approval, and it was denied
Of course,
again.
the thing is, and don't take this the wrong way, but I've served on the HPC for a number of years, and I have a real interest in preserving our historic houses. And one of the things that happens sometimes is people get the cart before the horse, and they do a bunch of stuff, and then it's sort of that, well, it's already done, please don't make me redo it. That, as I understand it, was more just an issue between you and the code office about what permits were necessary and so on and so forth. But what we're here on tonight is simply a question of whether the windows that are there would be appropriate in one of those Mill Village cottages. And I just got to say, I think they are. I don't think the way you went about it is the way you should have gone about it. So, but, okay, that answers.
Well, to add to that, I did seek a solution from the first denial, and I actually have a letter here from my window vendor basically stating it was believed that I could simply replace those mullions with a 6/6 style. I contacted my window vendor. He said, no way. He said, you need to order new windows. Obviously, this would add about a $3,000 cost to it, plus the fact they're not going to refund me on the custom windows that are in place. There's an adhesive material or epoxy on the interior and exterior of that window that holds the trim piece on the top paint sash into place. It's very similar to an adhesive that holds like a car, maybe like a car emblem into place. The code office kind of relayed info that, it could be easily be, replaced, and, these mullions could be installed, and that's not the case.
Those are not the pop-out mullions.
Yeah, and on top of that, kind of like y'all were discussing earlier about the fire engine, the 6/6 style window is just not something you go down to Home Depot and just readily available and to buy. Windows in general, you're 2-3 months to get new windows, that particular style. So that's another, that would be another issue to add to it. I think what's happened throughout the Mill District, you're talking about 100-year-old houses, and probably the reason there is, no congruence throughout that area is, when your window breaks, you fix it, and what do? You go down to your local supply house, Home Depot or Ace Hardware and Social Circle, and whatever they got, you buy it and you put it back in your home. There's one house on that street that has, 2 different styles windows in it. So I think a solution, I offered a solution to the HPC, and I don't know if they presented it to you, but I think a solution to ensure congruence throughout the Mill District, because I love history. I'm a history guy. I love Monroe. But I think the HPC needs to understand that, the realities of today's marketplace coming to deal with materials, and also from a consumer standpoint, I just wanted to secure my property so I could fix it. I didn't want to spend a bunch of money on the inside to have somebody, bust a window out or, open up the window that couldn't be locked to come in and, possibly steal something. But I think a real solution for this is when utilities are changed, a notification for anybody in the historic district, let them be notified like, hey, you have to do X, Y, and Z before you are to make certain changes. And that would create a little bit more transparency with HPC. And they wouldn't, people wouldn't get in situations like I'm in right now.
I saw that on the video, that commentary, and I think Patrick was going to be looking into doing that. On the one hand, On the other hand, it's incumbent upon all of us as property owners to, if you're gonna make a change, to come in and find out what you have to do before you do put the cart before the horse. So, are there any other questions, Mr. Parker?
Josh, it was my understanding that you bought the property and you started work and you did not have a permit to do the work you were doing. And the city came in and had to do a stop work order because you were not in compliance. And this is not the first time this has happened. The same thing happened on another project that you were doing. Am I correct?
Yeah, about 3 years ago, I was doing a house on this, I guess, South Broad Street, and I guess I wasn't in compliance with the code department as far as pulling permits. For this project, it was not as in-depth. There was no structural.
Gosh. I tend to differ with you on that.
Well, I understand, but as far as the two projects, this one was not as, there was no additions or any exterior renovations being made. My electrician, he came in to rough the property and do the rough electric as well as the plumber. And that's standard, protocol. They'll come in and rough it, pull a permit, call inspection, and, go on down the road. So that's what happened as far as that goes. The rough was being done from the electrical and plumbing contractors. And then, they pulled their permits, inspections were done, and here we are.
Any other questions? I have two. What's the architectural style?
House, it's just one of those Mill Village cottages.
Mill house, yeah.
So generally, an architectural style has a list of uniform features. Windows shall be this, roof pitch shall be that, hips and gables, what have you. Is there any?
There's no real standard for what the windows be in that house. They traditionally, they came in different styles. And what he's put in there, from my viewpoint, there's nothing wrong with the windows. They're
Okay.
fine. So, I just don't see any problem with it. And that's the issue before this body.
Right,
not
we'll revisit
all the other stuff.
revisit that in just a moment. If it's okay with you, I'll declare this portion of the meeting closed, and we'll open up to public input. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor of this appeal? Okay, and if there's anyone here who'd like to speak against, Faye Brassey from Walton Street.
I'm Faye Brassey, and I represent the Historical Commission. We don't make the rules, but we have a handbook, and we try to enforce the rules. We we want to keep our historic town historic, but we don't want to cause an undue hardship on people. The Mill Village, or the Mill Town, is one of 9 historic designated areas. There is a mixed use or mixed style of buildings, some shotgun and some vernacular Victorian. But we researched all of our requests, and we've researched that and found that 75% of the homes are 6/6 windows. Now, you may think a window's just nothing, and so what, and who cares what they look like? And obviously, before this commission came to be, that's what happened. Just as Josh was saying, if you broke a window, you fixed it or what have you. And that leads to a mismatch of looking messy. And what the historical look of this should all be 6/6. Well, we can't go backwards and have somebody change this if they've had it for years, but we can make a difference as they come before us to make these changes. And that's why they're supposed to get approval before they spend their money. I'm sorry if it costs $10,000. A rule's a rule, and I'm an old school teacher. And I don't think that it's in the best interest of this commission to grant forgiveness. I hate to tell you, but we have a lot of naive people in this town. And if we're going to keep our town historically correct, then the word needs to get out. We have some really good real estate people that will call you on this, and they'll say, look, you're in the historical district, you've got to go before the commission. We have other people, Monroe Museum is wonderful at this, and a lot of other, and we hope that you as the council will come some way that you can notify these people. I have no clue where these people are coming from or if they've bought a house. Our commission has no idea. It needs to come somewhere so that when a person buys a house, they know up front that this is happening. But right now, we have several people who have asked for forgiveness. And, you know, it's like once the mule's out, the door's open, and everybody will ask for forgiveness. And we hate this as a bad precedent. I hope you will deny his request and help us spread the word that history does matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brassey. Is there anyone else who would like to speak against? Hearing none, I'll declare that portion of the meeting closed, and we'll revisit that in just a few minutes. Moving to new business, application of beer and wine package sales at Walton Mini Mart. Mr. Syriac, did I see you here? Thank you for coming tonight. Would you like to speak? No, you're good? Okay. This is at Walton Mini Mart, and what's the address? What is 734? West Spring Street, gotcha. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Ms. Malcolm, is there a second?
Second.
Is that you, Mr. Garrett?
Yeah.
Any discussion?
Yes, the application's in order.
Thank you, Paul. I was reading his mind. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Thank you, Paul. Conditional use at 700 Breedlove Drive. I'll open the floor to council members and council members only for discussion. And if you do have any questions for the applicant, feel free to ask.
Mr. Mayor, I oppose that we table this to conditional use of 700 Breedlove Drive.
I have a motion to table by Ms.
Second it.
Crawford and, I'm sorry, Mr. Garrett, second?
Second the motion.
Mr. Garrett with a second. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, was that table it to a specific point in time?
We can table it to next month, the meeting.
Table it to next month? Any further discussion?
Well, why do we need to table it?
I believe they probably want to do more research on it. Does she have to give a reason, Paul?
No, she certainly does not. If she wants to provide one, I mean, that can be part of y'all's discussion.
Well, I'm prepared to go ahead and act on it tonight, but
I am too.
I have a table and a second. A motion to table in a second. Look, let's just try to build some consensus, and we'll come back and visit this next month if that's okay with you.
You've got a motion on the floor. You need to take a vote.
Motion on the floor to table, so we'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Let's do that by raised hands. I'm sorry. I have 1, 2, 3 in favor of tabling.
Four.
Tyler, fourth.
It's up to you.
All against? Signify by saying aye. 1, 2, 3.
4.
You ain't got but 3.
I'm gonna go back to the, I should have voted the first time. Table it.
Okay, so we'll say 4-3, and I guess we just say +1 abstaining. Motion table passes, and we'll revisit that next month. Moving to the preliminary plat.
Can I make a request?
Yes, ma'am.
In regards to this?
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to have the sign that has been newly built on that property that can be visibly seen from both directions. A two-sided sign that is of size and is readable on that corridor by tomorrow.
Good.
Fair enough.
Sir, could you make sure that signs up legible perpendicular to the street, not
No,
parallel?
that's a one-sided sign. This is up to the code office.
Okay. Brad, you're good?
When you say readable, with the copy that we have now is 3 times the size of state requirements. If we turn it perpendicular and get it closer to the road, would that be sufficient?
No, sir. Because that sign is not what we're putting now on other rezones.
And the reason I ask is that in order to do that tomorrow, it would have to be a handwritten sign. And
I've seen rezone signs that have been built in recent months upon request that are larger than that.
in the city,
Yes.
the current sign on the property is the larger sign.
Last year, we ordered some new larger format signs, and I don't know if that is one of them. Brad says it probably is.
It's not
I'll
even the
double check.
size of a real estate sign. But, okay, so within a week.
I mean, there's a lot of right-of-way there, so we can probably move it closer to the road, which I think would help, because I think originally its placement was way back up the hill. So,
But I agree, perpendicular and two sides.
That's easy.
Two-sided, and it needs to have rezone at the top as clear as you can see. When you can't even begin to see what that sign is when you go down that road, even at 35 miles an hour.
That's fair.
We'll do
You say
that.
by Friday?
I'd like to follow Ms. Malcolm's thing, though. I think that the way it stands right now, we've already had the public hearing, so I'm not sure what the sign would say, unless you want to make a motion that we have an additional public hearing.
I think we would just be for council to have discussion and vote.
We have to
next month.
repost the sign anyway, since it's been tabled.
That's what I thought.
We'll just.
Well, you don't have to repost it, but I mean, of course, it's great to always provide as much notice as possible. You've conducted your public hearing. You certainly have the right to allow for additional public comment, but I believe that your legal public hearing has occurred tonight. We actually, in the city of Monroe, we provide 2 public hearings. We provide one during the Planning and Zoning Commission and a second during this corporate body's meetings. So my advice to you would be is that if this council wants to have staff properly notice up on the property this pending issue, please do. And certainly the directive has been made. And if this council wants to allow for additional public comment, you absolutely can. That's within your purview. However, I would caution you against having a second public hearing, because I believe that public hearing has already occurred, has already been advertised. You would get into ZPL timing issues if you attempted to have yet another public hearing at next month.
And I do, at next month's meeting, for those of you who are for or against, please speak during public comment at the very beginning of the meeting. Sign up in advance as you walk in, and we'll hear each of you for 5 minutes at a time. But there'll be no additional public hearing. So,
But in order for those that could not be here tonight that I have heard from, and I have had a world of calls on this, and many could not be here, and they were representative of not just the retreat at Mill Creek, it was Kings Ridge, and people that live in that area, Belmead, all around. So I think that rezone sign needs to be there to notify them and the date of this next meeting. I think that's important.
that's on the sign, right?
Yeah, we have dates on the sign.
Moving to the preliminary plat, we did vote on that, right? Yeah, 4-3 with 1 abstention. Preliminary plat review, 0 Highway 78 Piedmont Regional Industrial Park. Mr. Callender?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The preliminary plat before the city council this evening is for a split of some properties in the Piedmont Regional Industrial Park. And the staff and the planning commission have reviewed their preliminary plat, and it's subject to 12 corrections. Just to quickly give you an overview, they're proposing to, as you may already be aware, they're wanting to dedicate the road that's been constructed, the Piedmont Parkway extension to Highway 78. It's included in this preliminary plat. And they're proposing to adjust some property lines for the proposed Gotham's Greens development that's ongoing under construction out on the park itself, and they're also wanting to subdivide a few of the lots. But with that, there are a total of 12 recommended corrections for this preliminary plat.
Thank you, Brad. Are there any questions for Mr. Callender? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with the conditions that the code office put forth.
Motion to approve with conditions from Code Office by Ms. Malcolm. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Dickinson. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to the appointments of the Historical Preservation Commission. We have two appointments on Historical Preservation Commission that will expire on May 1st. Ms. Jane Camp, the nice lady in the pink. Her term expires on May 1st, 2022, and she would like to continue to serve on the Planning Commission. I needed a motion to reappoint her, please.
I'll make that motion to reappoint.
I have a motion, and a motion by Mr. Bradley, second by Mr. Garrett. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Next, Mitch Alligood's position on the HPC expires May 1st, 2022. He does not wish to serve again. His staff has interviewed several applicants, and they recommend that Ms. Laura Powell be appointed to serve on the HPC. I need a motion to appoint Ms. Laura Powell for a 3-year term to expire May 1st, 2025.
Move to approve.
I'll take the motion by Mr. Little and the second by Ms. Malcolm. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to the appointment of the Planning Commission, we have one appointment to be filled on the Planning Commission. Chase Sisk has resigned for moving outside of the city limits, and his term was set to expire September 1st, 2025. Staff has interviewed several applicants, and they recommend that Ms. Sarah Shropshire be appointed to serve on the Planning Commission. I need a motion to appoint Ms. Shropshire to fill the unexpired term left vacant by Chase Sisk to expire September 1st, 2025.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Gregory. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Crawford. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Move to the resolution for the comprehensive plan update. Mr. Probst?
Yeah, before you, this is just a technical resolution, adopting what you've seen tonight so we can transmit that down to DCA and be in compliance.
Thank you. Are there any questions about the comp plan? Would anyone like to have the resolution read, or can we waive that?
You need a motion to waive it?
No, just need a motion to read it.
I mean, yeah,
Okay, so I'll entertain
waive reading it.
a motion to approve the comp plan as presented.
Move to adopt the resolution.
A motion by Mr. Dickinson to adopt the resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gregory. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to the resolution of the 2022 budget amendment. Ms. Thompson?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a resolution to amend the 2022 budget. This is just to increase revenues and expenses for the supplemental bonus that we received from the state for public safety in the amount of $49,519. This was in addition to the supplemental bonus money that we received in 2021. One was for fire, one was for police, and this is just what we received in 2022 and paid out.
Thank you, Beth. Are there any questions for Ms. Thompson? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Mr. Little. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gregory. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to the Historic Preservation Commission appeal at 108 North Street. I'll open the floor to council members and council members only for discussion and/or action to the certificate of appropriateness denial.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve overturning the denial or?
Overturn it or not, the denial.
Okay. Motion to overturn by Mr. Garrett. Is there a second?
I second.
A second by Ms. Crawford. Is there any discussion?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Am I correct that well, I want to ask if I'm correct. Tell me again, what are the type windows that are in there now?
2/1.
2/1?
And
Okay, so I'm looking at the minutes from the meeting, excuse me, the HBC minutes from February the 22nd, when this came up, and Mr. Kelly says in this one, 2/1 is an appropriate style for this house, but 6/6 is what they were originally. So I guess I'm asking if this one is an appropriate style, but I know the HBC voted to go the other way with the other one, but I guess they just got me confused when I read it. If it is an appropriate style, then it would seem that Mr. Garrett's motion would be appropriate. Does anybody
any
know the
other
answer to that?
comments?
Well, again, I think I already said this.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am, I'm sorry, you've already spoken.
I think this is where we have our disconnect. The windows he put in are an appropriate style for that type of architecture, which I think is why Mr. Kelly said that in the meeting. The fact that an appropriate style window has been put into the house in replacement for another style that's also appropriate doesn't make what he did an inappropriate style. Because, how do I explain this? If this was like one of these standalone houses that's on the National Historic Register, and you were getting all of the tax incentives to restore it exactly like it was because of its significance, then we'd be having, I think, a different discussion. You'd be required to leave exactly what is there, assuming it was appropriate to start with. But there's no such standard that I know of when you're talking about a house that's not on the National Register as a standalone and is simply a house in a district. And, you know, I mean, I live in a district. I live in the Church Street Historic District. We could probably do stuff like, for instance, my house was finished in 1899. It still has the single pane, hand-blown glass windows in it, and I want to keep them. Those won't come out. But what he did, I think, is appropriate. As I said to Mr. Parker, the way he went about it, I don't think is appropriate, but that's not what we're talking about here. So I just don't see any problem with it.
Thank you, Mr. Dickinson. I have a motion by Mr. Garrett and a second by Ms. Crawford. Is there to overturn the denial by Historic Preservation Commission? Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
Aye.
Raise your hands, please. 6-4-2 against. 6-4-2 against. Motion carries with Mr. Little and Ms. Malcolm on the deny side. Moving to the resolution for the 2021 American Rescue Plan Act Fund Budget. Ms. Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. I had sent an email out to all council members this afternoon had a conference call with our auditors, Malden and Jenkins, at 2:00 this afternoon. And it has been brought to our attention that with the American Rescue Plan funds, we have to adopt a budget for 2021 and for 2022. We did not do this because the final rule did not come out until first quarter 2022. That goes into effect actually April 1st, 2022. So the auditors are working with us because this has been a gray area with everybody because these funds did not have a final ruling. The funds were distributed 50% in 2021, 50% will be later this year. And there was just kind of a lot of confusion. Believe me, I've done more webinars on this funding than I have done on anything else. And I still am not 100% certain on some of the aspects of it. So the auditors are walking us through it. But this is just to adopt the resolution to do the 2021 budget based on what we actually spent under that American Rescue Plan funding. And then the next item will be the 2022 that we have not necessarily earmarked, but what we will do for 2022, just to have a budget set forth for those funds.
Thank you, Beth.
just a
Are there
technicality.
any questions? Does anyone wish to have the resolution read? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
A motion to approve by Mr. Gregory. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Little. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to the resolution for 2022 American Rescue Plan Act Fund Budget. Ms. Thompson, same thing?
Yes, sir. This is
Right.
just for the 2022 year current budget. And as we go into budget season later this year, if we see a need to roll these funds into the 2023 budget, we'll do that then.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Beth? Anybody wish to have the resolution read? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Have a motion to approve by Mr. Gregory. Second. Second by Mr. Little. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, that passes. Moving to district items, does anyone have anything to discuss from your district, Ms. Malcolm?
No, I don't.
Ms. Crawford?
No.
Mr. Boyce?
I don't really have anything to discuss. Well, it's somewhat district-like, but an event that transpired on March 12th, Mayor Howard, you were there, and we had my aunt, her 60th birthday party at the Wayfair Hotel, and she looked beautiful. She's been dealing with a lot of health issues, and thank God she don't look like nothing that she's been through, you know, and we have a mental health business within our family over here on Church Street, Exceptional Community Services, and we all threw her a party at the Wayfair Hotel that night. And working with individuals with intellectual disabilities, they're going to elope, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. So we had an individual elope, and we sent a staff member to retrieve them, and the police were called, and they showed up, and you end up showing up as well too. And my issue is that this is an individual with autism and schizophrenia, and we have one of your officers threatening to arrest him, an autistic individual. And it was a sickening sight to see, and it was embarrassing for my aunt. And it's literally a brewery next door. Where, you know, they're not drinking coffee at 11 o'clock at night, I'm sure. But you know, they got harassed for, you know, they're saying they're drinking alcohol, but they weren't drinking at all. We were just they're just doing their job. And I don't know, I hate to say it, but it just almost seems like the guys have been conditioned to target minorities. And I got a real issue with that. And I just want to know, what can we do as a council to come together and make sure that all individuals of the city of Monroe feel like they're not only safe, but welcome as well?
Well,
because truth be told, because I'm in my district walking the streets and getting input from them every day, and they're telling me they don't feel welcome. And I just want to know, as a council, what can we do?
well, three things. One, everybody should feel welcome. Our money all spends the same way.
Right.
If you're nice, you're intelligent, you're not friendly, and you're dumb, we should all be treated equally.
Right.
I'm 100% down with that. That particular night, the patient who had eloped, I think is the term, when there's something that's put out from either Walton County or the city of Monroe, the police or deputies, by law, have to put their eyes on the person who's taking control of that patient. I've learned that since that evening. That particular officer does training for the state on intoxication, inebriation, and various, whether it's alcohol, drugs, whatever. So he's the one who trains people into saying this person has had too much or not. Now, do I think he should have parked at the end of the street? Probably not, and I told him so. I said, look, you don't want to look heavy-handed. I said, if you treat this party like you would treat anything else. He said, I'm just making notes. I said, that's fine. I said, drive back through here in 20 minutes. Just, do your regular patrol. And he said he completely understood that. But when it comes to treating anybody differently, ain't no way that should happen. And I completely agree with you, and I would always frown upon that.
Yeah, I'm just going back because, a lot of minorities in Monroe feel like they're not welcome here because you look around and everybody's saying they don't want affordable housing. It seems like a city, you just come and bring your development plans and just throw a neighborhood up anyway for neighborhoods that really aren't affordable and throwing up apartments that really aren't tailored to people who really need them. And the the infill development that's going on Davis Street, they ride by and see that as well. So, I just want to know as a council, what can we do to, make everybody feel welcome?
I think we should make everybody feel welcome or be hospitable to everybody. And when it comes to our diversity advisory board, they started off with same things, and we've invited them to talk a million times. And Rashad, he's the chairman of that committee. And anything we can do to have people treated equitably, we need to. You're 100% right. That's something that we should all do. But I don't know, if we can have any concrete plans on just comment. Yeah, I agree with you.
Gotcha.
I got a quick follow-up to
Yes, sir.
Brother Boy, of course. We had a young guy come in here maybe a month or two back, and I reached out to Logan and asked him, did he get to look into that video and see, because I'm getting actually the same response that Brother Boyce is actually getting. Minority feel like they're being targeted, and I also feel like they're being targeted, but I also feel like I'm being targeted. So we have a serious racial issue that we don't seem to really want to address as far as the police and the minorities are being harassed. And I've had this conversation in the council meeting, not just now, but I've been having for a year or so back, that we still going through the same issue because we're not addressing the issue. We kind of acting like we want to look what actually really happened, look past what happened. We're not really addressing. In every organization, everything starts from the head. We're not addressing the head. We're just pretending to the people that we're actually looking into something. But not a single one of y'all called me this weekend. Not one. So that shows me that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 could kill less about if I were killed or not.
Can you give me 1 second?
Go ahead.
Okay. Two things. One, and then I'm gonna come back to you. And I forgot the name of the young man who spoke.
I forgot his name too. Yeah, Mr. Bird.
Mr. Bird. I saw the video, and like I said at the beginning, I can't comment on that because I don't know if that's still an open case. So you can't comment on an open case. I've seen the video, and once that case is closed, we can talk more about it. Then we're going to go, if it's okay with you, go in the same order where we were, then you can pick up where you left off. Is that all right?
Good.
All right, so we got Mr. Boyce. Go to Mr. Bradley.
I don't have anything.
All right, now Norman, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I tend to think, and I've been saying this for a couple of years or so, that we really have a real race issue. I'm a firm believer all this stuff started from the head, and I ain't got no problem calling RV name out. I'm talk to him personally, that I feel like I was being targeted. I've been pulled over 6 times in 1 year for the same nonsense reason. That they can't read a tag, and clearly this ain't nothing but nonsense. So the issue got to be with the chief. Now, I don't know if he want to address the workers, because I have a whole lot more that I really need to say that I ain't really want to discuss right here. But I definitely think we need to talk about some of this other stuff that's been going on.
If it's okay with you, Mr. Garrett, because I don't want to call out any staff member by name in public, that can go into personnel, and we can do, we'll do executive session. Because it's not planned for tonight, we'll do an executive session next month. Gotcha. Okay? But you had some other things. As long as there are no names, you can, or we can address it all next month.
No, I want to thank Danny for taking care of that, getting the cameras up and whatnot, and the other people that told me to tell you thank you too for taking care of them out down Saw Street and different areas over there, so I appreciate that.
Thank you, Norman.
Thank Chris for all he do.
Thank you, Danny. Chris has to put up with a lot, too. Moving to Tyler Gregory.
Well, on a positive note, Beth and our financial department have been doing a fantastic job, and they received 2 awards this year. One was the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, and they got that from GFOA. It comes when they meet the high standards, which include demonstrating a constructive spirit of full disclosure to clearly communicate its financial story and motivate citizens to read the report. So if y'all remember, we implemented a new website that from ClearGov that'll show you everything that's in our budgets and how we spend money and where that money goes, how it's allocated, those kind of things. So that was one of the steps that she took and that became a part of the reporting that allowed them to get this. This is also their 19th year in a row getting it. So they have done a fantastic job for almost 2 decades keeping us straight financially. So I really appreciate that. And then they also won the PAFR Award, which is the Popular Annual Financial Report Award. And this is their 17th year in a row doing it. And they have to win the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence before they can even apply for this. And so it's reviewed and judged, evaluated by reader appeal, understandability, distribution methods, creativity, and other elements. And I just wanted to say that I really appreciate the fact that in an age where we're talking about transparency and making sure that everybody understands what's happening in your local government and how everybody's being supported, that this is a great part of our government that is doing that. And so I very much appreciate Beth, all she's done, all the times that we've been able to sit down and discuss. Each month we have been meeting, but I recently had a baby, so that's turned into a phone call. So we talk each month about what's going on, and we've been able to accomplish some good stuff in the last year or so financially. And so very much appreciate what they're doing, and Logan, your leadership on the financial front as far as keeping us straight there. And thank you so much, Beth, for everything you and the financial department do, and thank you very much for helping me understand so much of it. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Perfect. Thank you, Tyler. Mr. Little. I'm going to think he said no. Mr. Dickinson.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Real quick on the mayoral update, there are 2 things. I put a couple articles in front of each of your seats. One is the head of the chamber in Columbus, Georgia. He was on the Beltline Committee. He led the Atlanta Beltline Committee to see that project from beginning to where we are now. Real interesting article in the James Magazine. And then the other one I'd emailed to all of you. That's the connectivity of our state parks, and that's something that David's taken as his pet project for Monroe, but it dovetails nicely into our comp plan too. So read that at your leisure. And now I need a motion to adjourn to executive session for personnel issue. Motion by Ms. Malcolm and a second by Mr. Chaz Boyce. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That passes. Meeting adjourned to to executive session.